Hey, everybody, welcome to Crackpot, the podcast where each and every week we drive 5 hours north into the wilderness and talk about conspiracy theories and the merits or the demerits of said conspiracy theories. We're your hosts. I'm Tim.
And I'm Zach.
And it's been a long day. I'm tired.
Dude, I was going to say, initially I thought we should do this every week that we tape. But
sorry, honey, I gotta drive to the North Woods.
But what can I say? It's worth it.
It is worth it.
And I'm just happy to be here, and I'm thankful for the great outdoors.
You are thankful. That was beautiful. Me? I'm kind of happy. I'm certainly not thankful. The bugs could be less. It is a little muggy.
A little rainy here and there.
A little rainy. We got a little stretch here with no rain, so let's try to, what do they say, make hay while the rain is not raining, I think.
That's it.
That's the one.
Or make lemonade with the hay.
Yeah.
When life hands you hay, make
lemonade.
You get the idea.
Bingo.
Well, if you can't already tell, folks, by us talking about it or the roar of the campfire, then I'm here to tell you we are on our annual corporate retreat, and according to the bylaws, look, I'm just getting a page here from board member Buffett.
Oh, yeah.
Checking in. I got to call this number back, I guess that's how it works. Probably being like, are you guys recording or what's the scoop?
Better be recording.
Yeah, he's like, APR is ticking.
I'm not paying for you to go up there and sit around and do nothing.
Yeah, so listener Buffett, good news, we are recording as per the itinerary that he had his admin type up for us.
Well, in years past, Zach, we have done many a cryptid episode, all sorts of weird stuff. Usually it's cryptids, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, cryptids and like weird camping stories.
Yeah, so is this a cryptid or a camping story?
I don't know.
Okay.
Oh.
Ho, ho.
I tell you what, man, okay? I've got a two-parter here. You know, one show, two halves, talking about two different topics, both related to missing persons cases.
Yeah.
Both related to the outdoors. So, I mean, not really super technically camping, not exactly like aliens, Bigfoot per se, but... Wait, was that Buffett?
No.
Okay. But... you never know. When I'm talking about this stuff, dude, anything, everything is on the table. So
anything
therefore,
goes.
Yeah.
Open-ended mystery, aliens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I will say the first half of the show might skew a little alien-ish.
Ooh.
Second half of the show, not sure. But, yeah, dude, these are both big ones in the kind of surprise, weird, missing persons cases, chapters, if you will, and not sure what to do with them. And again, I hate to give this, preamble, but it's true. It's like, if we joke around about people that are missing, it's like, we're not laughing at them. I mean, it's obviously sad and real lives were affected, but like, obviously trying to keep it light. And all that being said, it's like, these are legitimately strange stories.
Okay.
So here's what I'll say. Since we're out in the Great North Woods, we got the full moon here. I want our listeners just to sit back, take it all in, and, let's see what happens next here. All right. First of all, let's talk about the protagonist of this first story here, a man by the name of Kenny Veach.
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 Got it.
I'm assuming you've never heard of him.
No, I have not.
That's okay. Our listeners can actually go out and watch footage of him. He was a YouTuber. Had a few videos out there, but was also a very active commentator. And yeah, I'll just say, like, in general, this guy lived recently, and I'll get into his biography here shortly. But in short, he was a person that ultimately went missing, and really nobody knows what happened to him. So anyways, Kenny Veach was born 1967, Las Vegas, Nevada, which means he was about 47 years old at the time of his disappearance. Kenny was an avid hiker, outdoor enthusiast. And as I said previously, he had a YouTube channel, Snakebit McGee. One word.
Okay.
On this channel, then, he documented his multi-day solo expeditions through the deserts of Nevada, California. Loved to highlight his adrenaline-fueled adventures. And like I said, he'd go out alone. He was kind of like an ultralight camper, so he didn't bring much with him, no GPS, nothing like that.
Yeah.
Would just kind of slip off. And in his videos that he posted, he was often seen playing with like rattlesnakes and that kind of a thing. Like he was very adventurous, I would say.
Okay, sure.
But he was also a very experienced outdoorsman, very familiar with the desert, very familiar with his surroundings. He knew what he was doing outdoors, and he felt very comfortable being outside alone on his explorations. And after he'd go out and film himself camping and all that kind of stuff, he'd go back and he'd post his videos. And, you know, this is a pretty big genre, I think, on YouTube, which is basically these vloggers that go out camping and that kind of thing.
Sure.
And he was also a very well-known commentator in the YouTube space. He went by the nickname Son of an Area 51 Technician.
Is that true?
That is. Well, whether or not he was.
I mean, yeah. Was he actually the son of an Area 51 technician?
I'm not legally allowed to say.
Okay. Use your imagination. All right, good.
So like I said, he'd go out, take videos himself, romping around in the desert. But he's from Las Vegas. Like I said, he knows the area. He's an experienced outdoorsman. And then he would oftentimes comment on other people's videos and that kind of a thing. So pretty fun.
Yeah, seems like a cool guy.
Exactly. Let's talk about the area that he would often go out into. He didn't necessarily have a huge following, but he would post videos of himself going out into the Mojave Desert. And Las Vegas is essentially situated in the Mojave. And in case you're wondering, or if you're not from the States, the Mojave's huge, man. It spans across 4 states in the southwestern United States: California, Nevada, Utah, and Arizona. Covers approximately 47,000 square miles.
Wow, yeah.
This makes it one of the largest deserts in North America. And it's, of course, named after the Mojave tribe of Native Americans who historically inhabited the region. But as you can imagine, like any desert, it's characterized by unique geographical features such as vast stretches of arid land, rugged mountain ranges, distinct desert flora. It's bordered by the Sierra Nevada to the west, the Colorado Plateau to the east, and the Great Basin to the north. Climate, not surprisingly, hot, dry. Summer temperatures often exceed 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Winter's a bit milder, but nighttime temperatures can drop significantly, especially at higher elevations.
Yeah, and it's a high desert, too, so it actually does get cold at night.
It does, and I think that's important to remember. Not to mention the fact that, of course, it's a desert, so it's hot and dry when it's not cold.
Right.
There are a few things you should also know about the Mojave Desert, and perhaps some paranormal intrigue.
Mm-hmm.
Namely that it's a literal hotbed of paranormal activity.
It really is. Or, I mean, at least if we're talking about UFOs and aliens and stuff, I mean, that is like ground zero for nearly it's not nearly every sighting, but a lot of sightings, especially back in the early days.
Ground zero or ground 51?
Oh, I don't get it. What's a 50?
Oh, okay. Let me explain. Yeah, so the Mojave Desert does, of course, include Area 51.
Yes, it does, yeah.
I wish there would have been like lightning or thunder in the
Right. The wolf howls.
And in case somehow you've been listening to this show for 7 seasons and don't know what Area 51 is, I can't help you there. But you can assume, there's a lot going out there, such as UFOs, cryptids, alien creatures,
balls of light.
Yeah, weird stuff happening. And not surprisingly here, famous physicist, air quotes, Bob Lazar, claimed to have worked at the site called S4 in Area 51, where he said he saw craft.
He did say that. I don't know.
Go back and listen to that show. Also, I should mention, and I feel like this isn't talked about enough, maybe this becomes a show topic later, the Nellis Air Force Base is located right next to Las Vegas as well.
Mm-hmm.
The Nellis Air Force Base has long been associated with UFO sightings.
Oh, okay.
And this is largely because of its proximity to Area 51. That being said, several military personnel and civilians have reported seeing strange lights, unidentified flying objects in the skies above the base. Numerous reports of shadow people, shadow figures seen in and around Nellis Air Force Base. Evidently, these entities are typically described as human-like silhouettes that appear and disappear abruptly. Also, and this is interesting, some personnel stationed at Nellis Air Force Base have recounted experiences with ghostly apparitions. These stories include sightings of spectral figures wandering the halls, hearing disembodied voices, experiencing unexplained cold spot. And one popular tale in particular involves the spirit, or alleged spirit, of a pilot who died during a training exercise.
Oh, wow.
So, okay, we got
a haunted Air Force base?
A haunted Air Force base.
I've never heard that stuff before. That's crazy. I mean, that idea of these shadow figures that follow people, I know we talked about that in our Skinwalkers at the Pentagon episode. So it's not completely out of left field to me, but it's interesting that it happens with some regularity.
Dude, so I was thinking as I got into this, I'm like, oh, this needs to be a show.
Yeah.
This absolutely needs to be a show. Nonetheless, you know, hey, look, in addition to Kenny exploring the desert, with all the rational, explainable dangers that come along with exploring a desert, snakes, cactus, there's also some legitimately weird stuff happening in the proximity of his hikes.
Okay.
Maybe just file that away for later.
Okay.
Kind of getting back to Kenny here. As I mentioned previously, he was an active commentator on some of the YouTube hiking channels. And there was a specific video that he commented on when he talked about, this is unrelated to the topic of the YouTube show itself. And he made a comment about going out on one of his expeditions and coming across a mysterious cave in the shape of like a capital letter M.
Oh, weird. That doesn't seem natural.
No, and I honestly have a hard time picturing it in my head. Like, I know what an M looks like.
You want me to draw it for you?
But I can't really make heads or tails of how that would look like in a natural rock formation. Like, usually it's just a giant hole.
Yeah.
That's a cave.
Right. That's where the bear lives.
Yeah. This is a bit more nuanced. But, okay, anyways, as I was saying, he just made this comment. He went out and he mentioned the fact that he saw this M-shaped cave, and he wanted to go out back and take a look at it again. But he didn't actually, like, save the coordinates, didn't really remember exactly where it was. He just made it a point that he wanted to go back.
Mm-hmm.
But in his comments, he also mentioned the fact that as he approached the cave, he started to feel strange vibrations throughout his body.
Oh.
And he said the intensity of these vibrations increased the closer that he got. This led him to feel really uncomfortable, feel really scared. He also mentioned the fact that he started to feel this incredible sense of dread.
Oh, interesting.
Do you want to talk about this a little bit more? Because this is a theme that recurs in some of these paranormal type topics, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like an impending sense of doom or something.
Yeah, obviously I've never experienced this specifically, but you hear these people talk about it. And quite often, I know lately we've been talking about Skinwalker Ranch quite a bit, but again, it's relevant. People on Skinwalker Ranch, as they're patrolling the site and the ranch, they will come across these areas where they just feel this dread. They feel this some people describe it as, more than fear. It's like fear isn't an adequate word for the emotion that they feel. It's just absolute primal fear. So I don't know, but if I came across a cave with a capital M and I felt bad near it, I would make it a point not to go back. But that's just me.
I have a no cave policy. I just don't go in.
That's a good policy, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I don't care if I see like sleeping bears, like happy sleeping bears, dancing pigs. I won't go in. Doesn't matter. Not going to tempt me. But to go a little bit further here, he had commented, he said, I always enter every cave I find, but as I began to enter this particular cave, my whole body began to vibrate. The closer I got to the cave entrance, the worse the vibrating became. Suddenly, I became very scared and hightailed it out of there. That's one of the strangest things that has ever happened to me. Now, again, he didn't get it on footage. He didn't get it on tape. Didn't really remember exactly where it was. He was just out in the woods, or out in the desert, I should say.
Yeah, and it's not even a video post. It's just a comment on someone else's video, essentially.
Yeah.
Just kind of a random aside.
100%.
Huh, okay.
So, of course, naturally, he wanted to go back and find the darn thing. So, in October of 2014, he brought a 9mm handgun with him. He went out to find the cave again. However, in a video titled M Cave Hike, posted on October 18th, he said he was unable to relocate it. He said, and I quote here, "I found a tarantula, a tortoise, and a ram, but I could not find the cave." But, like all things internet, leave it to crowdsourcing.
Mm-hmm.
Leave it to the hive mind.
They found it?
No.
Oh.
However, a comment was posted on his YouTube page discussing the M Cave, and the commentator said this: "No, do not go back there. If you find that cave entrance, don't go in. You won't get out."
Oh. Why?
No further
They
context.
didn't. Okay.
No further clues.
All right.
So, despite the pleas from the internet to not go back and find the cave, November 10th, 2014, 47-year-old Kenny Veach decided to, go out and try to find the cave. So Kenny set out on his expedition alone, of course, told his girlfriend that he was heading out, and kind of like another one of these trips sort of deals. But Kenny never returned home from his overnight hike. And that set off alarm bells, for his girlfriend, Sharon, who then reported him missing.
Mm-hmm.
So shortly after he was reported missing, then the search was on. And the search took place over multiple weeks, hundreds of square miles. It was actually across 3 separate searches involving helicopters, search crews on foot, dogs, the whole 9 yards.
Wow.
In the days following his disappearance, search and rescue teams explored an abandoned vertical mine shaft that had been featured in one of Veach's recent videos. There they found Kenny's cell phone, and his vehicle was discovered several miles away.
Okay, well, that's a good clue.
Dave Cummings, the commander of Red Rock Search and Rescue in Las Vegas, said, "We found a cell phone close to a very vertical old mine shaft, and we can't find another trail. It doesn't mean that he's down the mine shaft, but we have tracked him as far as we can. We are having our other crews come in from the search areas." So the trail had gone cold. So Tim, like all missing person cases, especially when there's nothing else to go off of, that's it.
That's it.
He vanished without a trace, I guess, except for the cell phone.
Except for the cell phone near a giant open pit. Well, if it's not aliens, which first I'm going to come out and say it's probably aliens. I don't know, man. I mean, the outside is a really big place. The Mojave Desert is huge.
Well, and to that end, people would often comment on how reckless he was as he was out on his expeditions. Right? Like I said earlier, playing with rattlesnakes, kind of messing around out in the desert, not something you should probably do, at least when you're alone, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So, logically speaking, okay, could have been injured by a wild animal.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Right? And then the remains...
They dragged the body off into a cave of some sort and never to be found again.
That's one theory.
Yeah, that makes sense, honestly. Yeah.
Now, you hit on this a minute ago, right, in talking about the cell phone being discovered, trail running cold, essentially next to a vertical mine pit.
Yes.
So one would say, well, perhaps he either fell in, stumbled in, or got in and couldn't get out.
Yep. I mean, look, he was there. There's nowhere else.
Well, do you?
Well, his phone was there. Like, how did his phone get there if he wasn't there?
I mean...
Go ahead.
I'll say that for a minute.
Okay, all right. I'm just going to say if his phone was there, he was there. And if he was by the mine shaft, then I would assume he probably was playing around it or fell in it or an animal dragged him into it or something like that.
All very logical. That's why I'm
co-host.
Perhaps we could introduce a darker element here.
Okay.
Foul play.
Okay.
A couple of options here. First one, of course, being maybe some bad guys were out there and got after him. But, I mean, like, that's kind of unlikely, right?
Did he still have his 9mm?
They never found it.
Okay. All right. Well, probably not a bad guy then.
Mm-hmm. But what about this? Nellis Air Force Base, Area 51, M-shaped cave.
Yeah.
I'm not even saying aliens.
Uh-huh.
What if he saw something he wasn't supposed to?
Oh, okay. Okay. So a little more innocuous. He could have just been out on a hike and saw some sort of training exercise, some experimental aircraft, something. And then they had to kill him, basically?
Yeah. Leave his phone by a vertical mine shaft.
Sure.
Because, you know, it's like if you're going to go in a cave, I know there's probably not great reception in there, but, like, you're probably going to go in with the phone.
You would assume so, right?
Yeah.
To take pictures minimally.
So a little fishy that
It is a little
phone
fishy.
Was outside the cave.
I wonder if that cave is kind of a red herring, though. The M for murder cave, the murder cave. I don't know. But, I mean, no body was ever recovered. Yep.
You know, the mine shaft, nothing really turned up. Just his car, his cell phone. He was out in an area where, okay, strange things happen.
Mm-hmm.
Again, could be a logical, rational explanation. Could be something more nefarious.
Interesting.
So where's your head at?
Probably cryptids.
Thank you. So brave. So brave.
Whew. How about you? What do you think?
Well, I don't know because, you know, look, it's easy for me to say, yeah, you know, coyote or whatever, you know, got to him.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, at first I thought, okay, like you, the vertical mine shaft plus his cell phone being there, it's like clearly he fell in.
Mm-hmm.
But then I got to think about it some more, and it's like there are signs everywhere around that desert where places you can't go. People have documented legitimately strange things out there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe there's more to the story. That's all. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like Occam's razor here, yeah, probably something natural happened. However, maybe not.
What if they forgot to, like, check his cell phone? And then they charge it up and turned it on, and there's a video entry. He's like, hey, guys, just got out of the cave. Whoa, that was weird.
It does make you wonder what's on the phone, too,
Yeah,
if there's
it
anything.
does.
Perhaps not, but if there was something more nefarious at play, maybe there was, and nothing was ever disclosed.
Dang.
Now, I will say, in the interest of journalistic integrity,
Which we are always in favor of.
Veach's girlfriend believes that he died by suicide.
Oh, yuck.
She said he was struggling with some mental health issues. There were times that she just legitimately worried about him, and she even came out and said on one of his channels, like, folks, I just want you to know I really think this was no accident.
Okay.
But we don't know.
No, we don't. And that's unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, if that was his goal, then and he wanted to stay hidden, then he probably will, and no one's ever going to find him.
So we'll see. These missing persons cases tend to take, you know, twists and turns. They oftentimes evolve over the years. And, well, I tell you what, let us know what you guys think. And let's hear a word from our sponsors. When we come back, we'll talk about another bizarre missing persons cases. Dude, this next one is a barn burner, I got to tell you.
All right.
Yuba County 5. We'll talk about it when we get back.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. Missing persons. I feel like when I get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, I should tie a rope around myself and to the nearest tree so I don't get lost in these woods.
I assumed you did. You
I
haven't been?
yet, man.
Dude.
What? You did bring your 9mm, right?
Yeah. Good luck.
Perfect. Brought my Desert Eagle.
Perfect for the North Woods.
You're right. Can go through 3 moose.
Yeah, well, we might need that, or maybe not. Depends on kind of how this story shakes out. So,
yeah, you mentioned, what is this? The Yuba 5?
Yuba County 5.
Yuba County 5.
Have you actually ever heard of this at all?
No, not really. I mean, I think I've heard the name, but I legitimately know nothing about it.
That's how I was too. I was like, I think I've heard of this, but I didn't know any of the details. And this case is, honest to God, just a head scratcher. And this case involves the disappearance of 5 men from Yuba County, California, back in 1978. Spoiler alert, bodies of 4 of the 5 men were eventually discovered, along with some circumstantial evidence. But nobody knows really what happened, including what happened to the 5th man.
Okay, all right.
So let's go back to the evening in question. This is the evening of February 24th, 1978. We're talking about the mountains of Yuba County, California. It's the evening, it's February, it's cold, you're up in the mountains. There was a severe snowstorm happening that evening, right? Snow was falling, it was cold. Not a great night to be out. Enter Joe Shones. He was a 55-year-old man driving his VW in the mountains in central California during the snowstorm. He was trying to determine whether or not the snowfall was severe enough to prevent him from taking his family to visit friends in a nearby town the next day. So just kind of out on a little scouting mission.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately for Shones here, his car got stuck in the snow while he was driving. Obviously, he wanted to get unstuck, so he got out, started pushing the car around. But while he was working on his car, trying to get it unstuck, he started experiencing severe chest pains.
Oh, no good.
No good. 55-year-old man, serious chest pains, out alone in the mountains, car stuck. He was beginning to have a heart attack. So while he was deciding what to do, obviously it's pre-cell phones and all that stuff, he was just trying to figure out what was even going on. He did see a truck coming up the road and tried to signal for help. Nobody stopped to help him. Again, later in the evening, he saw headlights passing by, kept going. He also reported seeing, he thinks, a group of men, a woman, and a baby walking through the night.
In the snowstorm?
Yes.
I don't understand.
I don't either. And neither did he. And he was having a heart attack.
Okay, yeah, so maybe he's delirious or just...
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah.
This could be a red herring. This could be significant later. We legitimately don't know. But
okay.
This Joe Shones eventually the next morning was able to get out, get help, and go to the hospital to recover. That was that, or so it seemed. Except that same evening, which Joe had no idea about, an unrelated group of 5 men entered the picture. And maybe, just given what we've heard so far, it's possible that Joe was the last person to ever see these 5 men alive.
Interesting.
Enter the Yuba County 5. So the name Yuba County 5 refers to 5 men between the ages of 24 and 32, longtime friends, all diagnosed with learning disabilities as well as mental health issues. And they were out the night of the 24th. They had just spent the day at a Special Olympics basketball tournament and were driving back to their homes where they lived with their families in Yuba County. You have a man by the name of Gary Matias. He was a 25-year-old Army veteran with a history of psychiatric issues. Jack Madruga, a 30-year-old high school graduate and Army veteran. Bill Sterling, a 29-year-old deeply religious man. Jack Hewitt, 24-year-old, who had worked in a snack bar, known for being quiet and shy. And Ted Weir, a 32-year-old who was described as friendly and compassionate. And they were all very, very close friends. In fact, they were so close that the parents of the men referred to them as the boys.
Yep.
Like I said earlier, they're on their way home from a basketball game, only they never returned home from the game. And maybe just to clear something up here quickly, these were men with learning and developmental disabilities, and like I said, also some history of mental health issues. But legitimately, the driver of the car was a licensed driver, had some experience in the Army, and no question around that. In fact, he was known to love his car. He was obsessed with his car, and he was very meticulous in how he took care of it and always followed directions and was very cautious just overall. And that was a theme for all of these boys.
Okay.
Extremely cautious. So when the boys never made it home from the game, families obviously became concerned and alerted the authorities. And that's when the initial search kicked in. So a few days after being reported missing, authorities discovered the car. It was a 1969 Mercury Montego. It was found abandoned on a remote mountain road in a Plumas National Forest. Not much to go off of. They found some empty junk food wrappers scattered about the car. The car was stuck in the snow, but get this. It had enough gas to drive further. There were no signs of any issues with the car. The undercarriage was in complete condition. The snow that it was parked in was not enough to prevent an adult from getting the vehicle unstuck.
Mm-hmm. Now, I mean, okay, I don't know all the details, of course, but that's like several days after the fact, so it could have been worse when they actually did get stuck?
Yeah, I mean, we've both been stuck in the snow before, and yeah, sometimes after you try a few times, the snow melts and you can kind of get out of there, or snow piles up. I would have to assume the investigators kind of knew to measure that kind of thing. So I guess what I'm trying to say in all this is this car was essentially abandoned in the snow. One of the windows was found rolled down. A bunch of empty junk food wrappers kind of scattered throughout the car. And that was really it.
Huh.
Keys were missing. No signs of foul play or struggle. And getting back to the location here, this is important because they had actually deviated from the planned course. And according to the family of the driver, this was extraordinarily unusual. So because of their limitations, let's say, they often were very strict about their plans and how they planned their courses and all that stuff, and they never strayed from what the plan was. And yet their car was found 50 miles in a totally different road stretch in the mountains away from what they planned to do.
Bizarre.
It was bizarre. The search continued for weeks. 6,000 hours piled up. Authorities on horseback, dogs, helicopters, snowmobiles. Nothing more really turned up. And likely it's because of the winter and just the inhospitable terrain, right? Fast forward to June 4th, 1978, so we'll say about 4 or 5 months later. The remains of 4 of the men were found. So a small group of motorcyclists discovered an abandoned Forest Service trailer out in the woods. So this was like, you can imagine, the service rangers go out and then they come back for the night and that's where they camp out kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And when the motorcyclists went in to explore the Forest Service trailer, they were immediately hit with a stench.
Oh, no.
The stench of rotting flesh.
Yeah.
And what they discovered inside was even more bizarre. They discovered a body wrapped in sheets. Now, eventually it was discovered that the body was Weir's, and he was wrapped in 8 sheets. He was shoeless with obvious signs of frostbite.
Okay.
So we have something anyways.
Yeah.
At least one person kind of made it out.
Yeah, and like roughly how far away is this from the abandoned car?
I saw 20 miles.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
so a legit hike, right?
Yeah. Interesting. All right, well, I have some ideas, but I need to hear more information.
So, okay, good news, found some evidence here.
Yeah.
So this then re-engaged the authorities to start searching again, and by this time now it's summer, so a little bit easier to search, I imagine. Authorities then found 2 more bodies, that of Madruga and Sterling. Madruga's body had been ravaged by scavengers. Sterling's skeleton was dispersed across a small area. Autopsies, and I don't know how they do this with such severe damage. Like it was discovered that they probably died by hypothermia.
Oh, wow.
Then a few days after that, Hewitt's spine was discovered by his father. His shoes and pants still near the body. His skull was found some 300 feet away a few days later, and the autopsy also concluded he died from frostbite. But that's only 4 people so far.
Right.
Strangely, to this day, nothing of Matthias, one of the members of the Yuba 5, was ever found. The only thing they were able to go off of was his tennis shoes found in the trailer, but that was it.
Huh. Yeah, I'm just confused.
You're going to get more confused.
Okay, good.
So that body that they found in the trailer, this gentleman's last name was Weir.
Yeah, the one that was wrapped in like 8 sheets or something?
Yeah. Well, listen to this. Autopsy revealed he died of malnutrition and frostbite. Okay, no surprise there. But they also found that he had lost about 100 pounds, and his beard length suggested that he lived for 13 weeks after the date of his disappearance.
No.
13 weeks.
Oh, my God.
On the table next to his body, rescuers found his wallet, jewelry, a gold watch, which was not his, and it was missing a crystal, oddly, and a partially burned candle. In this service trailer, there were matches, books, an abundance of paper, plenty of firewood to keep warm. They did find 12 ration cans that had been consumed in the trailer. However, there was a large supply of warm clothing, dehydrated food in the adjacent closet that was just completely untouched. And get this, the supply of food was enough to keep 5 men fed for an entire year. So
what?
There was enough.
But he also died of malnutrition?
And hypothermia. There were blankets, jackets, clothing, everything available to keep him warm.
What? Okay, wait. So they went missing in February, right?
Correct.
And okay, so I'm just trying to piece this together. That, well, I mean, he was able to keep warm for 12 and a half weeks, essentially, right? And he was eating something, because no one can go 13 weeks without eating. So, but firewood and everything else? Why didn't he light a fire? Why didn't he open more food? Why? Lots of things.
Exactly right. Now, in addition, so although, they found Weir's body inside, it's theorized that Matthias and Hewitt may have also been in the trailer with Weir, and that's because Matthias's shoes were in there, and also authorities observed that the ration cans had been opened by a specific, I guess it's called a P38 opener, one that only someone who's been in the military at that time would have familiarity with. Mm-hmm. So the theory is, in fact, 3 men were inside that trailer for a bulk of the time.
Okay.
With ample food, supplies, and at the very least, wait out the storm, go out and get help.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's kind of what, maybe only 3 made it to the trailer, right? And they stayed there for a period of time, and then 2 were like, okay, we're going to go find help, and unfortunately didn't make it. I mean, that could make sense to a degree.
Right. But the facts just don't really add up. So just kind of a roundup here of what we know. Ted Weir, found inside the trailer, starved to death despite ample food and clothing and everything to stay warm. Jack Hewitt and Bill Sterling, they were found outside, partially consumed by animals. Jack Madruga, found near the trailer, similar conditions. Gary Matthias, still missing, though they did find his shoes in the trailer, and he also had that military background to, open the ration cans with his can opener. So, So I guess at this point it's theorized that Matthias and Hewitt may have been in the trailer with Weir. We don't really know. Everyone else seems to have perhaps died along the way.
Time out a second. So that first guy that had the heart attack in the snowstorm that may or may not have heard people walk by, right?
Yeah.
He said that there was also a woman and a baby?
Yeah, dude.
So is that completely different? Was he hallucinating, or did those guys also have a woman and a baby with them?
They did not.
Okay.
But I think it's a legitimate piece of evidence.
It's something.
And the reason why this story came to light about this guy having the heart attack, right, was once he heard about these men going missing, he said he reported to the authorities, hey, I was up there too. I saw something, I think a group of men and the baby and the woman. Yeah. Perhaps it's all related. But that's all he had. And like we said earlier, he's having a heart attack. So
yeah, exactly.
Who even knows what he saw?
Maybe they picked up a hitchhiker. Maybe they picked up a woman with a baby, and that's why they went out of their way and didn't stay on the same path, right?
Dude.
Car got stuck, and they're like, oh, crap, we need to get you help. So maybe there's actually like 7 people missing.
Dude, that is a really good point. I hadn't even thought of that. But it opens up all these questions because all this stuff is so weird. It's like, well, first of all, why didn't the men just move the car and keep driving?
Yes, absolutely. To that, I would say we don't know exactly how bad it was stuck in the snowdrift. And I'm sure 5 guys, Army training and everything else, they would have given it their best.
Yeah, or just stay in the car with the heat on, had full tank of gas, essentially was working. Who knows? But that's weird.
That is weird. Yes, it absolutely is.
Another question that's equally valid is, why did some of the men make it to the trailer and others not?
To that, I say maybe they all did make it to the trailer. Because we don't know where or when the 5th person got separated. For all intents and purposes, we could just as well assume that he made it to the trailer, and then, maybe, because the other 2 bodies that they found near the trailer were, ravaged by scavengers. I mean, who's to say that a bear didn't drag him 100 more yards into the woods, into a cave or something, and then that's why they've never found him.
Yeah, well, I think it's important to hit on this point because with all these names, I know it's confusing, but, Matthias's body was never found, but it's assumed he was in the trailer at some point. So maybe he was out trying to get help and then he got lost.
Yeah.
Or maybe something else.
Yeah.
We don't know. And also, I mean, this whole surviving for 13 weeks in a service trailer and not getting out or getting help also just doesn't make sense. It just literally doesn't make sense.
So this is where, it's tricky because I feel like we should probably talk about their mental faculties.
I'm really happy you touch on this because family members of the missing persons had all said, look, we get it. It's easy to say anybody that's stuck in a service trailer with a year's supply of food is going to wait it out a few days and go get help. Mm-hmm. And what the family said was they weren't necessarily capable of thinking in that way all the time.
Okay. So, yeah, I was going to take that in the opposite direction and say that it doesn't matter what your mental capabilities are. If you have access to food and fuel, you're probably going to eat and keep yourself warm regardless of any other circumstances.
Fair point. Yeah, we just don't know. So at this point, essentially, look, was this like, did they take a wrong turn, get out on the wrong trail?
Yeah.
Did they feel lost up in the mountains and then get scared and panic and get out and try to get away? I mean, maybe.
I mean, it's incredible that they found that trailer. I mean, that is a miracle in and of itself, and with so many supplies inside. It's so bizarre. So, I mean, the idea of dying of hypothermia and removing your clothes at the same time is not unheard of. There's actually a name for it. It's called paradoxical undressing. It seems completely the opposite of what you should do, which it is. But when your brain starts to shut down when it gets too cold, for some reason, you feel like you need to remove your clothes because you're actually getting too hot. It doesn't make sense, but this is a documented thing that happens. So the guy missing his shoes, it's weird. It's bizarre, but it kind of does line up with the hypothermia angle.
Yeah, so perhaps they got lost, innocent enough, started to freeze, couldn't think rationally, storm, just kind of like hanging on for dear life situation.
Man.
But still, the evidence that was discovered, their survival attempts, the decision-making was strange, right? Because they abandoned the car that was fully functional. Some of them reached the trailer, some of them didn't. They didn't use all the supplies in the trailer. And furthermore, they could have maybe tried to go downhill instead of hike uphill through the terrain, where it was discovered that service trailer was discovered. So it's just all very, very odd. But okay, so we've kind of talked about some pretty rational, options here. It's also possible that there are some psychological or foul play factors involved here as well.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, the one that you brought up earlier, of course, perhaps they were helping a woman and a child or something, and that went wrong?
That could have gone wrong any number of different ways, I suppose, yeah.
Yeah. However, one of the mothers of one of the men that went missing was insistent that she said, hey, look, somebody must have implored them to go off the usual path, right? Go on this little adventure, maybe go somewhere else. Like, they wouldn't do this unless somebody told them to.
Right.
And it would have to be somebody they trust.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so, several of the parents were very insistent that perhaps one of the men involved was responsible ultimately for their disappearance.
One of the men was responsible in the sense that he had someone who tagged along that gave them ideas that they all followed?
Or that it was him.
Or that it was, so one of the 5.
The one whose body that was never recovered.
Oh.
Perhaps he had something to do with this.
Oh, boy. Wow. Okay. I didn't even think that.
I didn't either until I got, into this research.
But I mean, that being said, that goes against what you mentioned at the outset, that the 5 of them were just as tight as brothers, and why would one of them want to kill the others?
Right. I mean, that just adds to the mystery. But okay, now if we would have done this episode in 2018, that would be all we have.
Yep.
This day. So we've discovered 4, remains, 4 bodies, remains. One's still missing, but there were signs that he had been living in that service trailer and then gone. So in 2019, several newspapers in Yuba County decided to reopen the mystery. Police allowed them to review the records of the men involved, as well as details of the search. What the papers discovered was actually surprising.
Oh.
The journalist discovered something that had not surfaced before, and that was that of a sketchy, complicated past of one of those 5 men. And this is the man whose last name is Matthias. So this was the body that they were not able to find.
Oh, dun, dun, dun.
Based on what the journalist discovered, Matthias's schizophrenia, coupled with his documented illicit drug use and violent behavior, could have played a role here. So, for example, this is documented. I don't know why this didn't come up earlier in the investigation, but the journalist figured this out. When he was a sophomore in high school, he experienced a psychotic episode related to heavy hallucinogenic drug use. After high school, he joined the Army, but he was diagnosed as schizophrenic and was caught using drugs, which ultimately landed him in the brig, right? In the Army jail, if you will. While he was there, he assaulted a guard, and he claims, he said, hey, look, I did it to get out of the Army.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows what the full story is there.
Sure.
Once he was out of the Army, he returned home, lived with his parents. And one day when he was at home, his cousin discovered Matthias fondling his cousin's heavily drugged and unconscious wife.
Ew.
Matthias ended up spending time in prison for about 8 months of that. And once he was out of prison for the next few years, he would kind of get caught, put back in jail, sent to a psych hospital, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
He would often escape, okay. But he had a checkered past, which prior to this didn't really seem to surface.
Interesting.
So that's all we know.
That's very interesting. All that kind of combined. And, of course, he was the one whose body was never found. So, boy. Did they turn up anything else?
Nothing.
Okay.
Now, a woman that was interviewed by one of the journalists, it was a friend of Matthias, longtime acquaintance. She had said that around the time that this incident happened, Matthias had told her that he had frequent dreams of himself and several other people going missing, which of course is a red flag.
Weird.
But getting back to the facts at hand, even if it was, let's just say, foul play, even if Matthias was the man who led these men astray or something else, we don't have any signs of where he is, whatever happened to him. He was diagnosed with a severe, mental disability. And you just can't make heads or tails of any of this information.
No, you really can't. I'm kind of staring off into space here. I am so confused. Okay, so to just kind of backtrack again real quick here. Abandoning the car is a different thing. But, I mean, I understand the car gets stuck. You get frustrated. You can't get it out after trying, and it's cold and everything. It's like, okay, maybe they thought they were close to something. Close to a gas station, close to a campsite, who knows? So the idea, while I don't condone it, of leaving your car and going and searching for help, yeah, I can see that happening.
Totally logical.
Right. So then they start going and they start going and they start going, and they are lost and they are cold and they are hungry, and then they come upon this trailer, right? 20 miles away, by the way. So that's not a one-day hike, most likely.
That's a good point.
That's probably 2 days.
And that's booking it.
Yeah. And yeah, we don't know the terrain and, if there's any paths or whatever. So, okay, so they get to the trailer. They find food, they find fuel, matches, you name it, and they should be set. And they were set because they stayed there for several months. And then they left. Or some of them left.
Their bodies were discovered, except for the one, Matthias, who disappeared.
Yeah, 2 of them left, died, got killed, maybe both, I don't know. The other one stayed behind. Like, why is that guy? Why is the guy in the trailer still dead? I was expecting you to say, like blunt force trauma, or could be as innocuous as died of asphyxiation or something. Maybe choked on a ham sandwich. Who knows? But no, he's actually just surrounded by blankets and logs and food, but he's dead of hypothermia and
wrapped in 8 sheets.
Yeah. And malnutrition. So I'm so confused. Like,
So this is where it gets so weird because, okay, you had talked about the woman and the child, right?
Yeah.
That could have been a thing. Maybe they were trying to help this woman and child, and that went awry.
Yeah.
Maybe, 3 of them ultimately made it to the service trailer, kind of took care of each other, maybe kind of, lost their minds a little bit, so to speak, and then something went wrong. But why for so long, and why not get help once the spring comes?
And to that might, I don't really know what I'm talking about, but that might play into just their mental faculties.
True.
Of sorts, just I don't know, maybe just a lack of problem solving or situational awareness, or something of that nature. But again, I'm obviously just speculating. I have no idea. It's easy for you and I to sit here and be like, oh, well, that's easy. Stay in the car. Keep the car running.
Yeah.
light something on fire, get a smoke signal. Go. I don't know. But man, that's so crazy. So to kind of tie this off here, the guy that went missing, Matthias, supposing there's no foul play, his missing body is not a red flag to me. It's just the woods are huge. Forests are enormous. Animals are everywhere.
Yeah, I'm with you there,
I mean, the fact that they found 4 bodies, like, that's the shocking part to me.
No, that's a really good point, because it's easy to look at his checkered past. It's easy to think about the conditions they were in and say, well, clearly he had something to do with it. Actually, he might be totally clean.
Yeah.
He might have gone out to get food or look for more help and never made it back.
Maybe he was the one that went out first. He's like, hey, I'll go first. Stay here.
Yeah, that's
stay here till I come back.
Equally possible.
Oof. But if he was involved in some sort of foul play, man, I mean, that sucks.
And to what end?
The whole thing sucks.
The whole thing sucks.
To what end? I mean, there's no rational explanation because of psychosis and everything else. We can't really explain that. But so then, what did he do? Dip off?
Right. Go on the lam. I mean, he's still missing.
Yeah.
No signs.
What on earth?
Yeah, dude.
What are some of the other theories?
Well, this is where it's hard because you have to kind of follow different, storylines. So one is, of course, it was just they all died from essentially hypothermia, getting lost, that kind of a thing. Another could be, of course, we kind of joked about this earlier, like cryptids. Like maybe they were discovered by somebody or something. Alien abduction, of course.
Sure, yeah.
But I don't think you need any of that for this all still just to be weird.
Oh, yeah. No, it's perfectly weird on its own. We don't need any glowing lights in the sky or strange footprints. It's just weird.
It is just weird.
And what'd you say, they're in their 20s and 30s?
Yeah, the oldest was like 32. 24 to 32, something like that. So we don't know.
I'm baffled.
Same.
All right. Well, hey, guys. Thanks for joining us up here in the greatest of Great North Woods. And if you have a moment, head on over. I think you got to do this at iTunes or on your iTunes app. Give us a rating if you haven't. It really helps us. Give us a review. Leave a review. 5 stars, I hope.
Dude, and by the way, we cannot control the ad volume.
Yeah.
So don't comment on that. We know. We can't change it. It's
Comment
set.
on something else.
Yeah.
Comment on something else. Anyway, guys. Also, real quick, we do have a Patreon where you can get these shows ad-free. Zach, where can they find that?
Patreon.com/crackpotpodcast. Not only ad-free, but a bunch of cool stuff happening over there.
Right. And like I said, please rate, review, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your local forest ranger about our podcast. And we will see you next week.
Thanks, everybody.